Yeah, thanks, Kyle. And hi, everyone. We are the Service Hub UX research team. There's 4 of us that have been with HubSpot for a variety of years, ranging from 10 years with Nicole Brenner, who is a senior UX researcher. Ben Basilin is a principal UXR who has been with HubSpot for 3 years. And then our colleague Fernando, he's been with HubSpot for just over a year. He just celebrated his 1-year anniversary. And I'm Allie Kowicki. I'm a senior UX researcher and have been with HubSpot for about 3 years as well. As Kyle mentioned, this is a listening session. We're here to learn from all of you about what it means to be a super admin with HubSpot, and then specifically how your experience has been working with, trying to learn, trying to understand, optimize the Service Hub platform specifically. And then we have a lot of questions we are going to be going through over the next 50-ish minutes. We're going to present the question on the screen, and we ask that you respond in chat with your comment. And again, like Kyle mentioned, like if you want to come off mute, provide an examples, further explain your response, please just raise your hand and Kyle will bring you on stage. But before we jump into the open Q&A, we first are actually going to have you complete a few polls because we would like to learn from you all about where you're coming from.
Thanks, Allie. Hello, everybody. My name is Nicole Brenner. I am based here in Denver, Colorado. I've been a researcher on the Service Hub for a couple months now, but I've been at HubSpot for several years. In the chat here, I have just shared a link to Slido, which admittedly is new to us. So we're experimenting with this as a way to kind of get the gears rolling before we ask you to come off screen or participate in the chat. So we have a couple of questions here on this link, and you can either scan the QR code, join the link in the chat directly, or go to slido.com and enter the code on the screen. But we're just looking to collect some information about you so that we have context for what we learned today. So there are a series of, I think, 7 questions. I'm going to give about 30 seconds to a minute for everybody to answer each one. And then I'll move it along. This is kind of a good time so that we can let people continue to join and gain some feedback from you all. And I see we're getting a bunch of answers in here now. We will do a little reveal at the end for some of our activities. So thank you so much for your participation. I am going to go ahead, and if you stay on your Slido screen, you should be able to see, I just launched a new question. What industry do you work in? I'm also going to copy those questions into the chat just in case for any reason we're having technical difficulties or it's helpful for you to see it all in one place. Does not look like it added bullets, so maybe it's
sorry about that. Debbie always surprises us with the things it doesn't know how to do.
Yeah, we're all learning here.
You probably have a really great list going then of all the things that you'd like to see.
New ones every week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And I'm going to then switch to our next question. Approximately how many people does your company employ full-time? And because of our bullets, I'm going to try and do this differently here. Nope.
The thing is, people can reply directly to.
Yeah, if you reply to the chat, that's also just as helpful. I know that sometimes it can be hard to manage multiple screens. This app should also work on your phone as a secondary option as well.
I scanned the QR code, and this is pretty nice. This is a good experience, I feel like.
Thank you, Kyle, for the live feedback. All right, so our next question, we're curious about which of the following Service Hub features you or your company have engaged with. I'm going to type the question here and then just verbally kind of let you know. We've got knowledge base, feedback surveys, help desk, Health Score, which is currently in beta, Customer Success Workspace, customer, as well as HubSpot Inbound Calling.
I'd be interested to know. I'm just going to type. If any of you aren't using Service Hub, if you want to just throw some emojis at what I just dropped in the chat, none of the above. I'm curious if any of you are just Service Hub curious.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. We're also definitely curious in what admin work looks like for all of you inside and outside of Service Hub. This is all just really helpful context. So thank you for letting us join your mornings and ask some questions. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. If you are using Service Hub, which of the following channels have you connected to Help Desk? Is there an alternative option if we use it aggressively? No, but Matthew, this chat will be helping us. So this qualitative feedback you're giving us here is awesome.
We'll be looking for you to come off mute a lot, Matthew. Oh, interesting.
Oh, sorry that this won't allow. Let's see if I can quickly change that.
Yeah, these are radio buttons instead of multiple checkboxes.
Multiple options. Okay, I just updated that in Slido. So if it's too late, no problem.
Oh, it updated.
Yeah, great. It looks like things are changing. Yeah, so I have been pretty impressed with Slido.
That's great. I was giving the page a refresh, but before it could even refresh, the box is updated, and then I just had to wait for it to refresh anyway. So
awesome.
Joke's on me.
Okay, great. And then our next question, does the customer support team at your company use HubSpot to intake, triage, and resolve customer issues? Okay, great. And just two more questions. Next is, what about your customer success teams? Does the customer success team at your company use HubSpot to drive customer retention?
I like that there's an NA option here if you don't have a customer success team.
Don't have it, maybe you call it something different.
I think the distinction is support is generally taking giving just-in-time responses to inbound questions, right? And a success team is more like proactively managing a long-term relationship. Is that accurate?
That would be some of our assumptions internally, I would say, about what, but we're always trying to learn. If that is incorrect, definitely let us know. Okay, great. And then our final question for this section is just a little fun one to warm us up. As you think about your daily admin work on HubSpot and your responsibilities and tasks, which best describes your perception of AI? Is it a friend? Is it a foe? Or is it complicated? Great. I'll leave this question open for a couple minutes here as Ben moves into his description. We will probably be coming back to the Slido, so do not close your window, although I will share the link again for anybody that does. And then we'll come back to some of these polls later in the session. Thank you all so much for your engagement. And I'm going to pass this on to Ben for our next section.
Nice. All right, everyone. Another quick warm up for you all. This is a reflection one. We're really interested in understanding what your relationship is with HubSpot and with Service Hub. So we're gonna do a really quick relationship check-in. Nicole's gonna also pull up, I think, in the Slido for you to be able to fill out this relationship check-in. But thinking about it for Service Hub, also for HubSpot as a whole, really just treat this as like a really fun Mad Lib. As we go through it, don't spend too much time in terms of thinking it too deeply. I'll read it through, but feel free to just what comes to mind as you think through this. So it could be, dear HubSpot, dear Service Hub, we've been through a lot together, and I want to let you know that I believe we can work even better as a pair. I want to share some observations and experiences to help strengthen our connection and make sure we're aligned on what I need to be successful with you. So one area I'd love to see improve is blank. So go ahead, fill in that blank right there for us in terms of a challenge that you might encounter. It comes to mind. Again, does not need to be perfect. Wanted this initial impression. All right, and so right now it's impacting blank. What is that impacting when you encounter that challenge? Nice. And if you need to, please feel free to add it into the chat. And we are definitely going to go through all of these, and we're researchers, so we will find those patterns. It impacts blank, which makes it a bit harder to stay fully committed. For me, it's really important that what is that emotional or functional need that you're trying to accomplish? And then what's that goal that you're focused on? And then for a little bit of fun, we want to make sure that we end it with just kind of something that summarizes how you're feeling with HubSpot or Service Hub right now as an admin. So I'm optimistic that with a few changes, we'll be able to strengthen our relationship in order to create something wonderful. Thank you for being open to this feedback. Looking forward to seeing where we can take things from here. All the best. And then just a little summary of how you're feeling and sums up what that relationship's like right now for you.
Bonus points if it's an alliteration like sleepless in Seattle, right? So like frustrated in Fresno or optimistic in Ontario. Or
Love it. Exactly. Great. And we will go through and we will share some of what people have filled in. I think a little bit later, Nicole's going to try to get a word cloud going and kind of get the general sentiment of where you all are at with this check-in. And I will hand it over to Allie.
Okay, thanks, Ben. All right, so now we're going to switch gears and just start posing questions aloud to all of you and hope that you can respond directly in chat. But first, just to lay the context, there's some groundwork. In Service Hub, we hear that an admin could be somebody who works in a front office manager or people management capacity. Perhaps an admin is a team lead or their role is like operations manager. But we don't know where like the admin role is distinct from all of these front office or team lead specialties, or where there's overlap. So the next set of questions is really just to help us understand where you're all coming from and how the admin, super admin role at your company may be differentiated from some of these other roles across the front office. So specifically, if you could put in chat, what's your job title? And if you know the holidays are coming up here in the United States, if a friend or family member at your Thanksgiving table asks like, so what do you do for work? How do you explain your job to them?
I have given up on explaining my job to my family, but maybe you all are more eloquent than I am.
Seen operations popping up in RevOps. That kind of aligns with some of our Service Hub hypotheses. I do software. That's a good one.
I like doer of things. Alexia, that is impressively succinct. I handle all the software and making sure teams know how to use it.
CX strategist. Great. I'm going to skip to the next question while folks are responding here. So thinking about your super admin responsibilities, like how much of your day-to-day work is HubSpot admin? 100%, 75?
120%.
120. Who was that? We need to know more.
112.
75. Wow. So across the board, really, we have folks who seem to be fully dedicated and folks who are less than 25%. Great. So, HubSpot is all about use cases and solving for the front office. So curious to understand, as the super admin at your company, like, what use cases are you supporting? Is it primarily sales, marketing, customer support, something else? If you could type that in the chat, that'd be great. All of the above.
All the things.
How do you prioritize, like, what teams or what use cases you're working on? If anybody's willing to come off mute and talk about that, that would be great.
Ooh, now is the chance for us to test out that raise your hand button. So again, that's under the more. Matthew is all over it. I expected nothing less.
I'm so grateful here. I'll turn my video on. Hold on. There we go. I put bribery because it's a very accurate description of what gets prioritized at my company. But I would say, like, I currently sit technically under post-sale organizationally, which makes it kind of weird because it's like they are my friends, so I have to support them first. But right now I'm doing a lot of sales and marketing stuff. But I would say, like, I generally provide across the board. Like, I have to think across everything because it's really easy to, like, think about one team and support them and realize you've, like, ruined it for the rest of the organization because they're not nearly as advanced as the rest of the team. Like, you got to bring everyone up slowly.
Got it. And then if you were taking bribes, what seems to work best for you?
It's usually jokes or emojis, which is a terrible bribe because I get zero value out of it. But definitely jokes and emojis. I'm definitely using bribery right now to get them to complete a training course. So,
Right. Okay. Anyone have a similar or different experience based on, like, org structure, where you sit, or just trying to bring everyone up to speed?
I have a question for this, Ali. Is there anything that any of you have done that's been especially convincing if a group isn't as utilizing HubSpot as much? Could be in the chat or, oh yay, Crystal.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we have a saying that I have drilled into the entire org, and that is, if it's not in HubSpot, it didn't happen. So we to just encourage adoption. I 100% refuse to take requests unless there is a component of HubSpot or they're sending me a link or they're doing something. So that's actually worked out really well for adoption. And our entire company is basically using HubSpot. We have blown out Service Hub for our operation teams, down to, we actually manage our vendor relationships inside of HubSpot as well within a ticketing pipeline. So the whole company, we migrated from Salesforce in May, and adoption has just been through the roof since we've been pulling all the teams back into one platform.
Crystal, from G. Stephen from May, what have you seen, I guess, would you say is the biggest value you've seen by having all of those things in HubSpot?
Reporting, by far. When we were in Salesforce, there was a lot of concern over data accuracy. There really was no SME within the organization. So a lot of people just didn't rely on data, and we used a lot of just gut, which works to a certain extent. But once we were able to get into HubSpot, we were starting to elevate reporting. We use a lot of the automation tools. It's allowed for our team members to self-correct. So from an enforcement perspective, I really haven't had to do a lot of enforcement because I can elevate those reports so that they can fix on their own or adjust behaviors. So reporting has by far been the biggest evolution of our org.
Wonderful. Thanks for that.
Of course.
All right, we're going to jump to the next one. What are the 3 most important admin-related tasks you complete in your role? And with whom do you have to collaborate to accomplish these tasks? And it's easier for folks to come off mute and respond to this one. It's pretty loaded. We welcome that as well. A lot about data. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have a reference to surveys. That'll be good to learn more about. I lost it. Reporting, metrics, automations, workflows. Okay. What about like collaborating? Are there particular teams or roles that you have to collaborate to get this stuff done?
I would say that on the collaboration one specifically, I found it's worked really well now in my current company is identifying, like we call them ambassadors, because already someone else in our company still champions. So we have HubSpot ambassadors in each like functional team as well as in sub teams that are a little bit bigger that I collaborate the most with them. And I'm like, you go get the information from your team and you tell me, because it's a lot easier when they can kind of succinctly describe like 5 different people's problems in their team into like, well, actually the issue is just this. And then I'm being more focused at my work. So I think that's super helpful if you have a bigger org, because we're about now, I think 120 people in HubSpot. Like it's much easier for me to get like distilled from like one core person in each team rather than like a manager sometimes, because like the end users use HubSpot the most. So I want to make sure we build it for the end user in that sense.
Thanks, Matthew. All right. We're going to take a step back. And when you first assumed the role of being the super admin of HubSpot, what did you find most challenging or confusing when you onboarded to this role? And how did you overcome that? Yeah, undocumented processes, huge challenge, data overload. Keeping up with changes is a huge challenge. Yep. HubSpot terminology. Oh, that's interesting. HubSpot is a giant sheet of blank paper with no boundaries, still overcoming it. Too much customization required? Is that the appropriate interpretation? Well, volume. So many nooks and crannies. Okay. We'll move on there. So some of you mentioned in the chat that it's difficult to keep up to date with what's going on with HubSpot. So, you know, if you could pick a way to learn more about the new functionality available to you as the super admin, what works best for you? Kyle on LinkedIn, sure. Mm-hmm. Update webinars, product updates area, webinars. Okay. What about emails, direct emails to your inbox? Would you read it? No emails. Okay. Well, mixed results. Some saying yes, some say no. Okay. Give you the options and let you choose. That makes sense. Does anybody click in the products update section regularly in HubSpot to see what's going on? Every day. Every morning. Okay, great.
Allie, I saw something in there and I was wondering if I could follow up for the whole group. Scott had mentioned that he became admin by default. And so I'm curious for other folks, if that was the case, if you just don't mind putting in chat, or if anybody wants to kind of speak to how you became an admin. We have heard that in the past, though, in terms of like either you have an interest there and then you become the admin, or you have skill sets that really allow for that. So curious how many of you fell into that role, and also, and if anybody wants to speak to that transition, I think would be interesting. I like the accidental admin show is my favorite so far.
Yeah, it's a term we throw around here a lot at the Admin HUG. It is I think the most common way people get into this, just because there isn't really a formal entrance into a HubSpot admin role, right? Like there aren't any certifications. There's not any training courses specifically for that. So you get there by falling in, I think.
It looks like you have the collective group that could probably put together some really great documentation and certification.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Instructors are already here, so wonderful.
I think for the interest of time, we're about halfway through. I'm going to keep on going here. We're going to go to this one. The best HubSpot super admin hack you've uncovered in your role. If you could share that in chat or come off mute for any tips or tricks you'd be willing to share. Documentation, the admin hugs.
Feel like I've talked a lot. That's why I'm like, I don't want to raise my hand again. I would say like recently, the biggest thing that I've leaned into is we got Operations Up Professional after a year of me advocating super hard for it. And something I've learned to get really good at, I hate coding, and I hate like with passion. I was like, I'm never going to learn to code. So now I know how to code. And the thing that's helped me a lot is like using things like AI. That's why like I answer that's complicated with AI, because like I don't like it, but I do like it. And this is one of those examples where I'll sometimes want to do something in a workflow and I can't do it. Like there's just the GUI update does not let me do it. Like a good example of the day I had was I needed people who submitted a ticket who we do not know to become a marketing contact, so we could send them an email reply back, because you can't just send them an email reply back automatically. So one of the things I did was I built a little custom code module using ChatGPT and a little bit of debugging, and it took me like 30 minutes total. And that lets me set them as a marketing contact to send them an email, and then I unenroll them as a marketing contact right after. And like that was great, because it's like those little things make my life so much easier than struggling to like build like a 57 action workflow to assign state values.
Thank you. I saw another hand raised, or did that get?
Sorry, I'm dropping links in the chat. Got distracted.
Oh, no worries. If you want to raise your hand again, come off mute. That'd be great.
Wait for me to see people who've raised their hands, but I don't remember what it is. Oh, presenter request. There it is. Ta-da! Granted.
Hello. Okay, there we are. So the biggest hack that I have been employing has been hugely helpful to my team is I use dashboards in a kind of unconventional way. I created a dashboard called deal registrations. And since we deal with lots of manufacturers who all have their own version of requirements and links and stuff like that, I have a tile for each manufacturer, and it walks through step by step where to go and how to create a deal registration for that manufacturer. Likewise, I have created dashboards that show, I've got one called the HubSpot Learning Center, and our president has created Vidyard videos, short, like 3 to 5 minutes, walking them through how to reconnect your Outlook, how to do this, how to do that. And I've got tiles, for each of those, like subject matter, and then the videos listed. I use them for promo information. Again, I've got tiles for each manufacturer with their current promo information, that kind of thing. so that all our hope and grand desire is for our team to live in HubSpot and nowhere else. So I've posted a lot of information in there. And every time they ask me a question now, I tell them what dashboard to go look in. I don't give them the answer anymore.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. We're going to jump now to some of the AI poll results that you've completed earlier in the session. So about a third of you think AI is a friend. More than half, it's definitely complicated, and only a handful are kind of fearful of AI. So curious, like, where do you think AI can provide the most value to your role moving forward, given, you know, you kind of have a somewhat tenuous / positive relationship with it? Anything come to mind where AI could help you in your role as super admin?
I've lost it in the chat, but a while ago, a couple people mentioned Hub Helper Harry. I don't know, UX team, if you've heard of this. It's a GPT that was created by a guy in the ecosystem. But if any of you are using that, I would love for you to hop on and talk about how you use it and what it does for you. Yeah, or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's okay to call people out or anything, but I think a couple of messages earlier, Chris had asked anybody if they're considering Copilot a hack yet, especially empowering users to self-serve help. And so would be really curious about that, because I think when we think about Copilot, it feels more like the internal side. And so those are ways that you're getting internal self-help by building that out. That'd be really interesting. Yay, Chris.
Yeah, so in general, I'm trying to help people if they're trying to create anything at all, whether it's an email or anything else. Definitely, they should not be going 0 to 100 ever. So in personal situation, my wife helps with some inside sales activity for a client. English is not her first language. So prior to Copilot panel, I would definitely need to review English emails just to make sure. And now she's just opening that up every time, putting it in there, and it's writing emails better than I could write. I've also noticed it's kind of on the way to where you would get to the support chat before. And a couple people have told me from partners that they are starting to direct people there before support chat. So I think there's a ton of opportunity to kind of build that habit into your teams so that admins can spend more time on other activities.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, we're going to switch gears again and skip this one and spend the rest of the time talking about Service Hub and what your experience has been like working with it or learning about it to date. So I'm going to turn it over to Fernando.
Thanks, Allie. Hey, everyone. My name is Fernando Golina. I'm a senior researcher here at Service Hub, and excited to dive into a little bit about Service Hub and how we can improve it for you all. Next slide, please. So we're going to go over some of the results that we got from the Slido poll, and I wrote a couple of notes down just to highlight some things. So it looks like 76% of folks are using feedback surveys, so that was our top feature used. Knowledge base comes in second at 69%. After that, it's 59% with help desk. Some of the features that are used the least, customer agent at 18%, and then 24% HubSpot inbound calling I'd be curious to hear from folks in the chat, or if anybody wants to come off the chat and jump on the call. Just tell us a little bit about how you use feedback surveys in the knowledge base in your organization. What does it help you accomplish? I'd also be curious to hear if folks have not heard of some of these features, if there's anything on here that's new to you. Robin, it sounds like you'd love to hear more about the betas. Okay. The health score beta and the customer success workspace beta. Ali, Ben, curious if you have any context to share there for Robin.
Okay, Ben's grabbing the links. I think that's going to be our best source. Yep.
Fair.
But the new customer success workspace is designed to solve for the proactive service need. So it's a single opinionated spot where customer success managers, account executives, or similar type roles could manage their book of business, get a pulse check on their clients' health with the health score beta feature, and also kind of plan out their daily tasks and weekly tasks within the workspace. So you don't have to oscillate across HubSpot to get the information you need. It's all trying to be centered in the workspace specifically.
Thanks, Ali. Love the feedback, Camille, Jamie. Surveys shouldn't be only for contacts, also for deals. Camille says, I'd love more stylization options and feedback surveys, especially custom surveys. That's great feedback. Jerry, customer satisfaction. Yeah, we hear that's a very common use case for customer support, customer experience. Another +1 for customization and surveys. Great feedback. Yeah, keep it coming. If there's anything else that you'd like us to pay attention to, like the teams mentioned, we're going to be reviewing this feedback, putting it together and sharing it with our product team. So anything you share is going to be really helpful. I think we could probably move on to the next slide. Great. So 24% are not using HubSpot for customer support. We're really curious, what is your support team using? Are there any barriers that you know of that might prevent them from adopting Service Hub? Feel free to drop your response in the chat, or if anyone wants to come off chat and just talk to us, we'd love to hear you too. Alan, Jira for service management. Crystal, Zendesk, but we're migrating to Service Hub soon, right? Freshdesk, org, change. Okay. Lauren, can you tell us a little bit more about why your organization hates change? Or yeah, I'd be curious to dig into that a little bit more. Help Scout, addiction to their personal inboxes. Matthew, I dropped this in the Q&A, but I'm curious how Service Hub will evolve to support proactive tickets. Right now, the system is built for reactive really well, but struggles with managing proactive. Matthew, I would love to hear more about this. I'm sure the team would be curious too. Feel free to share more context if you'd like. Emotional whiplash from pivoting to help desk after getting them on old tickets and inboxes. Okay, a lot of great nuggets in here. Okay, we could probably move on to the next slide.
Fernando, can I ask a question about that, the pivot
Please.
Tickets to help desk? I'm curious whether it's tickets to help desk or just in general for you all as admins. Is there a range of time where you would ideally like people to utilize and settle on one thing in terms of like not having to change processes, not having to adjust to, you know, a big feature release? Is there a set time when you're looking at tools as like, hey, please, within this time frame, we've set up, you know, our team to work around that tool? I'm curious what the range is for admins in this call. It could be in the chat too. Go All right, go ahead, Fran.
Great, thanks all. So the next slide is focused on success. So 44% are not using HubSpot to drive retention. Okay, so what if you're a part of this group, I'm curious, what is your success team using? And what barriers are preventing you from adopting Service Hub? Or another way to think about this is, what do you need to switch to a tool like Service Hub? And again, feel free to drop your answers in the chat, or if anyone would like to share off of chat, love to hear you come on the call. Jamie, I do see your IVR response from the help desk one. I think that one's really interesting. If you want to share more context there, I work closely with calling, so be happy to pass on your feedback. Todd, project management would be great. Okay. Would love to hear more context on that, Todd. Money, true support for management related to users. Okay, Michelle, do you mean like stakeholders investing more money? Leadership, is that the context sharing? That's really interesting. Could probably move on. HubSpot calling features similar to AirCall. Oh, Jamie, yeah, feel free to share more there. Warren, customer portal for onboarding and customer portal for project management. So project management is coming up as a use case pretty often. That's really interesting. Alan, SLAs, tagging others, linking ticket resolving from an IT perspective, linking Jira service desk. Okay. And Jira is mentioned again as well. Starting to see some patterns. Okay. Appreciate you all sharing responses there. Keep them coming. We're going to move on to the next slide here. And I would like everyone to participate in the chat and just tell us what's one word that best describes your experience configuring Service Hub. So if you've worked with Service Hub before, what's one word that best describes your experience configuring Service Hub? Choppy, confusing, painful, disjointed, rigid, roller coaster. Okay, confusing, challenging. Okay, so a lot of confusing and challenging. Feel free to add more context to your response and let us know what beyond that, like what could make it easier for you. And if anyone wants to jump off the chat and join the call, would love to hear your voice and hear more context on this experience configuring Service Hub.
Yeah, and Matthew, if you have any context to add too about the lackluster delivery of help desk, would love to learn more there too.
On help desk, I got so excited when I saw it inbound 2 years ago. So like the thing that we struggle a lot with is like we have 11 ticket pipelines right now for various different parts of our organization, and getting like one of our highest volume teams in help desk was like one of my goals for this year. And the biggest roadblock we found is that working hours, like in theory, sounded great. It was like, oh, I can say like I want these people to answer tickets between 9 and 3 p.m. their time. Perfect. The problem is it doesn't respect other variables. So like if you try to say, hey, I want them to answer tickets between 9 and 11, but only if they're like priority high, or if they're this type of category, because like we have lots of categories for our tickets, but we have teams that are more skilled to answer them. And I know there's the skill-based routing, and it might just be because I haven't explored it since that came out. But like that was one of the biggest things for us was like I have specific team members that we want to answer specific tickets at specific times of day. And I'm solving that to some extent with custom code right now that assigns a day part. But it's gross because it's something that requires an admin to go in and fix if we change something. Like if someone goes out on vacation, I've got to put in some new code to fix it. But that was one of the hardest things for help desk is our team got super excited that that was going to be a thing where they could be like, hey, if I'm out of office, tickets don't get assigned to me. But if there's a workflow action that says rotate record amongst teams, it doesn't respect working hours. So it kind of becomes this sort of like where the system's like working against itself.
Great. Thanks, Matthew. I looked at the Q&A and there was a question that came up there, and I want to ask Todd if he's open to talking to us. Todd, you asked, are you ever going to build project management into Service Hub? I'd be curious, what are your top 3 use cases? You can drop them in the chat, or if you want to jump on the call, feel free, but would love to hear a little bit more about the project management use case in Service Hub.
Others have mentioned project management in the chat too. So even if you aren't Todd, if you have thoughts on this, go ahead and share.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Okay, Todd wants to jump on. Hey, Todd.
Hey. So yeah, being able to develop projects for internal use would be great, to be able to track it more than just a ticket. Right now, just a ticket is pretty basic, but being able to build out tasks and workflows that a project is more but would be more applicable to, would be helpful.
That's great to hear. Todd, one follow-up. What are you using now, and where does it fall short for you?
We use different tools. We're an IT managed services company, so we use a system called ConnectWise for our project management. We use Trello for some things, but right now we don't have a really good system to do project management in, to be honest.
Okay. Well, thank you, Todd. Thanks for sharing this. Super helpful. We have one more person who wants to go into presenter mode. I'll go ahead and approve.
Hi, guys. Oops.
Yeah, feel free to share.
All right. I'm sorry. My machine was lagging a little bit. This is Stefan, and we use HubSpot for client-facing communication, and internally we rely on Teamwork. Really, honestly, an amazing project management system, but I would love for more of that internal action to be documented and displayed inside HubSpot, because then we could do more things with it, like automate communication with clients. So I would say if you want to look for someone who's doing a nice job with PM in terms of functionality, Teamwork is a really excellent product. Calendar views, child tasks, parent tasks, they really are. It's an excellent product. I'm just selfish. I want the entire experience to live inside HubSpot. So I would love, and I'm hacking a few things to sync some data back and forth, but if I could ditch Teamwork and have just as robust an experience inside HubSpot, I'd be the happiest guy on earth.
Really cool to hear. Thanks so much.
Sure.
And I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Ben.
Great. All right. I think we have some results for you from the relationship check-in, and we probably won't go through all of these, but you can kind of get a general sentiment on how you all are feeling in terms of some of the challenges for this one. So some of the main challenges looks like adoption. I'm wondering if that's from your external, the teams that you work with adopting. I'm assuming if that's the case in terms of like building things out as admins, but then having folks adopt and utilize the tools. This is great. All right, next. Specific impact behaviors that it affects. Again, adoption, things related in terms of.
I think I didn't update. I think my screenshot got.
No worries, Nicole. We'll take a look at this and start to see some of the emotional or functional needs for you all is being able to have some flexibility. Let's see, our customers both want to be able to go back to, and then the goals. Go ahead, Nicole, we could go through since I know that we're kind of coming up on time. So some of the goals that you're trying to accomplish, let's see. So we have some tracking. I know that data was important for several of you. Ooh, proactive kind of use cases, growing revenue. All right. Ease is something that's important. And then the sign-offs, let's see how general the sentiment, let's see what we're feeling like in terms of. All right, so a little mix of like some of the the frazzled, frustrated, those types of feelings isn't great to hear. And so hopefully we can kind of continue to work on those things. We do really appreciate all of you also being, hopeful cheerleaders and encourage, but wanting to, biggest fan. So wanting to make sure that we're getting that value that you need, and maybe addressing the frazzled and frustrated pieces of that admin experience. The last thing that we really wanted to understand from this group is around upgrades and paywalls. So what happens if we go to the next slide, whether it's, maybe we could start with yourself and we can add this into the chat, but these are just some examples of areas in the experience where you might encounter a paywall, or something might not be available to either yourself or your team members. And so we're curious, from this perspective, what happens and what typically happens from a process standpoint if somebody's encountering, or if you're encountering these paywalls. If you could just add that into the chat. What are the typical ways that, I guess, your teams handle this if they encounter an area where they might need to be utilizing a functionality, but there's a paywall? All right, so there's some frustration there, Sean.
Interesting that it's hard to determine if it's like worth it before paying money. That's good to know.
Yeah, Kenneth, the workaround, and I'm seeing somebody point to that one, it'd be interesting in terms of like, if you encounter a paywall, is there a workaround? Does it tend to be a workaround where you could still figure that out without necessarily needing to upgrade or unlock that? Or if anybody would like to speak to that, those workarounds would be great too. Nice. And then I'm curious, when people on your team that you're hoping to help adopt the tools and build this out for them, are they in any kind of way a decision maker or a person that would be able to make that decision right then? Or who does that typically go to if somebody can't make that decision for themselves, if they need to go through that paywall or utilize it? Got it. Something. Okay, so I see something like some escalations, leadership ultimately having the final say. Curious if there's anything that we could do as we're starting to explore and look at this experience when you do encounter these, anything that we could do to help you all as admins in your roles when your team members or yourselves encounter these types of paywalls or anything that could enhance or make that experience better if somebody ends up coming here and sees any of these things. Nice. So a longer demo, wanting to make sure that we don't feel like we're just trying to ask for money is a sentiment that I'm getting.
I don't mean to commandeer this, and I know we're short on time, but I'm curious. I know a pattern I'm starting to see a lot in HubSpot is we'll have enterprise-only features, and some limited version will come down to Pro, right? Like Playbooks did this. You can create a few playbooks in Pro, and you can't like map them to properties, but you can at least get a sense of what a playbook is before you decide to upgrade to enterprise. And like data sets recently came down in this way. Is that helpful for you all as admins? Does that give you enough of a sense of what these tools are like? A big question to drop with 60 seconds left to go. I'm just curious since we're here.
Kyle, we're also interested in that too, so thank you for asking that question. Great. And I know we have a minute left, so maybe, Ali, I think we just have maybe one more slide. I think that hits all of our topics. So thank you all I know we threw a lot at you. We were kind of moving through a lot of topics, but we appreciate it. It's so valuable to get your time. If you are ever interested, HubSpot's UX Ops team has now set up a program where you can give feedback and opt in by helping shape HubSpot's products. So a lot of these are different research initiatives that are specifically coming from UX design, UX research, UX ops, and some of our content teams. So if you're ever interested, I think somebody, hopefully we could drop the link in to the chat real quick if we haven't already. There it is. Fernando dropped it in there. Go to this, opt in. There are different types of studies, so you can kind of see what piques your interest in participating. And then feel free to let your colleagues know, other folks that are working in the front office. It's for customers and non-customers, because we are always wanting to make sure that we are getting feedback regularly, just like this Q&A. So thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you for the four of you for coming. This has been a great session. Thanks everyone for your participation. I'm gonna let you get back to your Tuesday now, but hope to see you all back at the Admin Hug soon. And yeah, have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.